This is what they wanted. Wosny Lambre is here. I don't think even knows what's going on because I don't think he's been on the show in the last month.
I do not know what's happening.
This is the damage report, and people on the podcast don't know at all what's going on because they can't see me. But anyway, everyone wanted purple hair, and purple hair you have received. And I think we can all agree it's quite purple. It's extremely purple. I got it done yesterday. And at one point, I go into the bathroom, whatever, do my business. Then I go to wash my hands and I look up at the mirror and I was like, whoa, because I'd forgotten that this is what it looked like. I wasn't quite as put off as my daughter was when she first saw it. But anyway, basically what happened is we did sort of like a member drive last month and we had a goal. And if I reached it, they wanted me to dye my hair purple. And thus, you are now cursed with this for the next month.
Wow.
But anyway,
I don't know who I'm more impressed by, all the new members or you for actually going through with the bet. So salute for you for being a man of your word and actually going through with this. Although it's not, it's a pretty good look for you. It's not terrible.
I don't know. I might have to do a little bit of trimming or whatever. I don't actually hate it that much. It got a couple of compliments on the street. They might have been sarcastic. I don't know. Also, so I had to bleach the hair. And by the way, I took some little clips. We're gonna put the video together of it being done. So they had to bleach it. And so when it was fully bleached, it was like very, very white. And I was looking at it, I was like, you know what? I don't hate this necessarily. So look forward to that horrible look at some point. But anyway, the purple hair is here, and in honor of it, the purple John emoji should also be on YouTube. So if you'd like, you can use that. Trying to get the emojis a little bit mixed up on a more regular basis. But thank you to everybody who participated in our first ever Dragonathon. You gifted, I think, over 3,200 memberships in 1 month, which is crazy. And now we'll see what happens. Do I get sick of it first, or do you all get sick of it first? Tune in to find out. Also, in the first social break, we're gonna be reminding everyone of the individual rewards for the people on the leaderboard. And then we're gonna start at number 1 with Gabby Mathis and hopefully communicate and figure out what people want. And so we're gonna be doing that during the break. But that said, there's a lot to talk about on the show today, including fallout from one of the most disgraceful congressional hearings in recent memory. Like, I didn't know that Marjorie Greene would be able to top her racist attacks against Jasmine Crockett so soon, but I think that she did. We're gonna get to that in just a little bit. Jill Biden being accused of exhibiting mob-like behavior. We'll weigh the evidence there. And a big update on one of the Donald Trump legal proceedings, this time the Georgia case. We're gonna talk about that and how it bodes for having the election before, or having the legal proceeding concluded before the election. And then we've got basketball, and we've got deportations and impeachments and religion, all sorts of stuff. So stay tuned for all that. It is, as always, a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for being here. Are you ready to do this thing?
Super excited to be on, let's go.
Okay, let's do it. Let's start with our first story. It's a doozy, and this is how it goes.
Mr. Fauci, you were quoted on CBS Face the Nation saying it's easy to criticize, but they're really criticizing science because I represent science. Do you represent science, Mr. Fauci?
I am a scientist who uses the scientific method to gain information.
Yes, you said you represent science. Do you represent science, Mr. Fauci? Yes or no? Yes or no?
No, that's not a yes or no answer.
Yes, it's a yes or no.
I don't think it is.
Okay, well, we'll take that as you don't know what you represent. But this, as director of the NIH, you did sign off on these so-called scientific experiments. And as a dog lover, I want to tell you this is disgusting and evil, what you signed off on, and these experiments that happened to beagles paid for by the American taxpayer. And I want you to know Americans don't pay their taxes for animals to be tortured like this.
No, they do not. They elect Kristi Noem for dogs to be tortured like that. But anyway, look, if Marjorie Greene wants to honestly come out against animal testing, awesome. Bring it on. It's like traditionally kind of a lib thing to do. I don't think that her heart's actually in it. I think this is another convenient position that she's taking that doesn't say anything about principles or values or anything like that. What's going on? It's fairly clear with the way she was talking about, do you represent science? She doesn't understand science. She is deeply scared of it because she doesn't understand it. And so what she's doing is she's grasping for whatever thing her feeble mind can hold on to that she thinks will prove to be an effective weapon against Anthony Fauci. And that will become even clearer here.
Do you think that's appropriate? Do the American people deserve to be abused like that, Mr. Fauci? Because you're not doctor, you're Mr. Fauci in my few minutes. No, I don't need your answer. I want to talk about this right here.
Mr. Chairman,
Fauci,
objection.
I reclaim my time. I reclaim my time, Mr. Raskin.
Gentlelady will suspend.
Mr. Chairman,
Point of order.
Just in terms of the rules of decorum, are we allowed to deny that a doctor is a doctor just because we don't want him to be a doctor?
Yes, because in my time, that man does not deserve to have a license. As a matter of fact, it should be revoked, and he belongs in prison.
Gentlelady suspend. The gentlelady should recognize the doctor as a doctor.
Okay, look, honestly, I had a whole big thing prepared that I was going to talk about, but we have to just pause on this because I believe, and have believed for a long time, that I have a pretty good vocabulary. I try. I care about words. I like words. I don't have the words necessary to express how goddamn stupid she is. Like, I just don't know. Maybe people who speak other languages, maybe there's a term in German or in Portuguese for how aggressively and corrosively ignorant she is. We could show you minutes of her talking. She's holding up Daily Mail articles and stuff like that, asserting that he's said things that aren't even in the article, and she couldn't possibly know that because she's not capable of reading. When she talks about science, it's like if I talk about like TikTok trends or like Vanderpump Rules. I know that they exist. I know that they're things, but 2 or 3 seconds into speaking about them, I make clear that I'm out of my element and I shouldn't be talking about them at all. She doesn't know what she's talking about. And the only thing that comes through more than the ignorance is how badly she wants to be clever and how badly she wants to be impressive. She wants to be AOC. She wants to be Jasmine Crockett. She wants to be Katie Porter. She wants to be able to have those moments. And she thinks not only that she's clever, but that she's tough. When she's like, yes or no, I don't need your answer. And then I'm not gonna call you doctor. You're not a doctor to me. You belong in jail. Like, this is not tough. This is not strong. This is Karen barging into a Panera and ruining the workers' day energy. That's all it is. And we have more, but what do you think?
So many things to tackle here. One, I think, to your point, John, she's not very insightful about, what resonates with voters and what will get her positive attention. Cause like she can't even recognize that everybody's moved past COVID-19 and nobody wants to talk about this. Nobody wants to be reminded of that time where we were cooped up in our apartments and lonely and bored and miserable. Nobody wants to think about this. So rehashing this in a way that you think is gonna get you positive feedback because Fauci bad, it's not a good look. And I think her problem that she's not realizing, man, and why I don't think she'll ever be able to ascend past her current station. Like, it's cool to do this maybe once every 3 months. She does this like once every 3 days. And eventually people learn to completely tune you out and move on from all of your outbursts. They all become one thing and nobody cares about any individual thing that you have to say.
Yeah, it's repetitive and it's like, you know what? People who are good communicators or whatever will sometimes, I don't know, like as an extra spice, they might swear a little bit. She just goes to that instantly. Like, go to her Twitter. It's just constantly calling people a-holes, and she just doesn't realize or doesn't care or is incapable of transcending the fact that she is one of the classless people in America. And it oozes out of her pores and it infects every word out of her gross little mouth. She's just terrible. And we have more. And there's a moment that's gonna come up that I absolutely love. It comes at the climax of her little speech. And we'll get there in a sec, but first here's the next little bit.
I was going to say what Representative Raskin said. That's completely unacceptable to be able to deny Dr. Fauci, who's here, a respected member of the medical community, his title. And that's actually a personal attack on his character.
And I have instructed her.
He's not respected.
And I've instructed her to address him as a doctor.
I'm not addressing him as doctor. Let's talk about this. I'm reclaiming my time. I'm reclaiming my time.
Words get taken down.
I'm reclaiming my time.
Second that.
Point of order.
Suspend.
He's not respected. Yeah, you don't like him. You don't understand what he did. You don't understand science. You don't understand medicine. That doesn't mean he's not respected. Like it's not strong. Again, he's not a doctor. I'm not gonna call him that. You're an embarrassment. Dear God, if you weren't as incapable of critical self-analysis as you are of reading, you would hear yourself once and you would never get a speak in public. If I sounded like you when I spoke, I would become a hermit. I would go off into the woods somewhere and I would never speak where another human could hear me because I'd be so deathly afraid that they'd realize how utterly stupid I am. She doesn't have that critical self-analysis, unfortunately. But I want to go to my favorite part, and it takes place in her sort of closing remarks. Take a look at this.
You know what this committee should be doing? We should be recommending you to be prosecuted. We should be writing a criminal referral because you should be prosecuted for crimes against humanity. You belong in prison, Dr. Fauci.
Did you catch my favorite part? She forgot the thing she was doing. She forgot. I'm not gonna call you doctor. Okay, here's the big final moment. You got this smart. You should be prosecuted. You do war crimes against humanity, Dr. Fauci. Don't. She's so stupid, so stupid. She's like a kid that isn't talking to another kid. So instead, they only tell a third party what to say to the other kid, but then they forget and they directly address the kid. She's that stupid little kid. That's all she is. And again, like it's just everybody she disagrees with, everybody she doesn't like should be prosecuted. And then she'll immediately pivot to it's lawfare against Donald Trump, but literally Hunter Biden, Anthony Fauci. She doesn't know for what. She doesn't know what the crime is. She doesn't have anything, but she doesn't like these people. She's very scared and nervous about these topics that are beyond her comprehension. And so everybody needs to go to prison. Woz, what do you think?
Here's how I know she's not very smart, and it's that there are legitimate gripes with how we handled our pandemic response. One, a couple of things, like if she wanted to speak on behalf of parents whose kids, because of school lockdowns, fell behind in school, I think that's a legitimate criticism of the lockdowns. That like, I think that's a legitimate way to be like, yo, man, we could have probably did that better. And guess what, Dr. Fauci, you're the face of that. I think when people go back and look at the actual data on, deaths prevented, et cetera, the lockdowns didn't really work as intended. What worked was getting people vaccinated. The vaccines decreased the freaking deaths. Like, but
she doesn't want that either, Woz.
I know, but I'm saying like she could have been like, maybe we were too draconian in our lockdowns, businesses lost money, et cetera, didn't really help in any meaningful way if you look at the actual data. But like she can't even do that. She can't even talk about legitimate gripes that people might have about this, or just to be like, yo, maybe the American workers shouldn't have been forced or lost a job for vaccines. Like these are legitimate things you could say. Like people can disagree. I might disagree with that last one, but like it's legitimate, and like reasonable people might listen to that and be like, okay, she kind of has a point. Maybe Fauci and them kind of took it too far, but she ain't capable. She's incapable of just common sense, dude.
Well, that's literally true. She's incapable of common sense. And even if she had common sense, she's incapable of communicating in a way that doesn't make her side look utterly unintelligent. Yeah. Like you can say, and he would say, some of the stuff we did turned out not to be successful, which is a great thing to criticize now with 2020 hindsight. What would Marjorie Greene have had us do in the face of something that hit our shores and started killing tons of people? And I know the answer. Nothing. We wouldn't have tried social distancing or tried masks or tried lockdowns. We would have done literally nothing. Everybody would have gotten sick and more people would have died. And that would almost be ideologically or intellectually consistent with most of what she says about COVID, if that was the end of it. She doesn't think that 1 million people died. She doesn't care about all the people, particularly conservatives, who died. That would be one thing. But she also then wants to go on and say, this was a biological lab leak from China. It was a biological weapon unleashed because of Fauci. That I don't think got many people sick. And I don't think we should have done anything to stop the Chinese biological weapon from racing through our community. She doesn't think it matters, but she also thinks it's a Chinese bioweapon at the same time. It just flip-flops. Should we take it seriously? Well, if it's a Chinese bioweapon, then probably, but we also shouldn't even socially distance. She's angry that people stood away from her a little bit. I don't even think most of that's due to COVID. I think people have been keeping their distance from her for decades. But anyway, it wasn't just Greene that was making a fool out of herself, and we are gonna go over a little bit here. Here is Representative Malliotakis trying to score some points against Anthony Fauci.
Dr. Fauci, how much have you earned from royalties from pharmaceutical companies since the pandemic began in 2021?
Zero.
It says NIH scientists made $710 million in royalties from drug makers. You're saying that you did not receive any of the $710 million.
On COVID, I received, I think, $122 for a monoclonal antibody that I made 27 years ago.
Okay, so just in general, though, how much have you received, not related to COVID, just in general, how much have you received in royalties between 2021 and 2023?
I think none.
Okay, so somebody received the $710 million.
Somebody did, but not me.
You didn't receive any royalties. Okay.
I mean, I see no royalties associated with COVID. I mentioned.
I said.
No, I want to.
No, I just said.
I'm on the record, and I want to make sure that this is clear that I've developed a monoclonal antibody about 25 years ago that's used as a diagnostic that has nothing to do with COVID, and I receive an average of about $120 a year from that patent.
Okay, so obviously that did not go the way that the right wanted. Or did it? Watch this.
Fauci had a financial interest in force-feeding the vaccine. His scientists made almost $1 billion in royalties from pharmaceutical companies during the pandemic.
He's just lying. That's not what was shown at all. Look at the work. His scientists. How are they his scientists? Some scientists made money. He didn't. He had a financial interest, whatever. So like, again, and what I think is so funny about this is that the right are the ones that have been telling us our whole lives, y'all need participation trophies. You don't know how to just lose. Well, look at them. Even when they lose, they win. They don't prove their point. They don't get the viral moment. Let's just pretend that they did instead. And it's just swing and miss, but it doesn't matter. It's all filtered through Fox News. No right winger is gonna watch the Malliotakis video. They're just gonna see Jesse Waters openly lying to their face about what it contained was.
Yeah, again, and like the right wingers, if they would ever get their stuff together, they could actually clobber the Democrats. I think if the message was actually consistent in that, look, not only should we have been skeptical of Pfizer and all these other pharmaceutical companies who stood to make massive profits from vaccine mandates by the government, like they stood to make a lot of money from that. We should be skeptical across the board of pharmaceuticals and their companies and their products. Like that should be an across the board policy. But no, we can't do that because they want to pick and choose and they don't want to be consistent. And that's why they won't win on something like this.
Yeah. By the way, I'll remind everyone, some people made quite a bit of free money during the pandemic. Marjorie Greene, for instance, had over $183,000 in PPP loans forgiven. Just free money, a couple years worth of regular people's salary, just handed to the congresswoman, who I will remind you is a many times over millionaire, free money to her. And here's the thing, if you're a right winger and you're watching this, you probably are a little bit frustrated because you're like, I know people are making money off of this. And I'm with you. I despise how much money Big Pharma makes off of all of this stuff. But you need to understand that Marjorie Greene and Representative Malliotakis are not your ally on this. They talk about Fauci making money, and Marjorie did bring it up during her comments. as a way to cosplay caring about excess of money when it comes to pharma. They're not actually trying to regulate big pharma. You think Marjorie Greene is going off on a big rant calling people a-holes off of the price of insulin? That was the Democrats that capped the price of insulin. The Republicans want to let them charge whatever they want. They do this stuff to fool you into supporting them because they know how mad you are, and you're legitimately mad about the various ways that the system is rigged. But the way that they divert your justifiable rage is by coming up with fake squirrel versions of rigging for you to freak out about. And then you miss the fact that they've completely ignored the actual substance, and they've protected the status quo, the establishment, from the reforms that are desperately needed to unrig the system. Now, I want to move to our last bit, and that is going to be Dr. Fauci after the hearing talking about some of the death threats he's gotten.
I just wonder if you ever thought that you would still be getting threats like that, credible threats against your life, even now, 2 years out of government service.
You know, it's very interesting. It's a pattern, Caitlin, that whenever somebody gets up, whether it's a news media, Fox News does it a lot, or it's somebody in the Congress who gets up and makes a public statement that I'm responsible for the deaths of X number of people because of policies or some crazy idea that I created the virus. Immediately, it's like clockwork, the death threats go way up. So that's the reason why I'm still getting death threats. When you have performances like that unusual performance by Marjorie Taylor Greene in today's hearing, those are the kind of things that drive up the death threats, because there are a segment of the population out there that believe that kind of nonsense.
Yeah. I mean, look, you can add this to the long list of things that are driving death threats against doctors and bureaucrats and politicians, governors who do lockdowns or whatever, witnesses or jurors in legal proceedings. It's all incitement. And it has to be at this point, because nothing can be an honest conversation where we disagree about the substance or about policy and then we hash it out. They are so QAnoned at this point that everything is baby murder and cannibalism. Every Democrat is the Antichrist. Anthony Fauci, somehow in a pandemic that they don't think killed anyone, killed tons of people. And so, yeah, people get worked up when they unfortunately find themselves in the position of respecting and listening to people like Marjorie Greene. Woz, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the sort of vitriol and the animus was ratcheted up way at a much higher level 3 years ago, or obviously 4 years ago. And look, Fauci and the government, I think, made this guy a celebrity and made him one of the faces of the pandemic, and that was for better or for worse. Obviously, this guy shouldn't be receiving death threats for something that we've clearly moved past as a nation. I just wish we could get some ideological consistency from anybody in Washington ever at all, especially Marjorie freaking Taylor Greene.
Yeah, it would have been so simple for everything to be different if Donald Trump had just decided, you know what? Every election, we want to come up with a lethal threat that we can scare people the hell out of and we can campaign on it. If he had just taken the actual lethal threat and said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna be the defender of you that I've always said I'm gonna be, but not against stuff that I've made up, caravans and trans teachers or whatever. I'm gonna stop every single American that I can from needlessly dying from this disease. And whatever, it's a Chinese bioweapon. The damn Chinese have sent it here, but I'm gonna make sure that you're protected. He could have done that. They would have gotten in line. He would have won the presidency. Instead, I don't care. I'm not gonna do anything, whatever. Bleach, put a light in your butt. I don't care, do whatever. We're not gonna take this seriously. And so the right-wing media didn't take it seriously. His acolytes like Marjorie Greene didn't take it seriously. And 4 years later, Marjorie Greene is still every day thinking about and demonizing Anthony Fauci. As you said at the beginning of the segment, I don't think that this is really compelling to people who aren't already on the hook for Marjorie Greene. But again, this is where we're stuck at. She's still in Congress. She can still, for some reason, appear in hearings like this. And because the Republicans have the majority, they can bring in Anthony Fauci for some reason in 2024. I literally don't even know why he's there. Does anyone know why he's there other than to produce sound bites? Anyway, with that said, we're gonna take our first break. We come back, lots more to talk about. Don't go anywhere. Okay, one and all, I want to read a few comments and then we're gonna get to the business. I see a lot of comments that make me uncomfortable. Asimov's prophet says, I'm not into guys, but John is a sexy pixie. That's a first, hopefully a last, I'm kidding. But anyway, thank you. Cray Cray Souffle says purple rain, thank you. Revenge Dragon says, John didn't actually die, his hair, he spilled an old Grimace's birthday shake all over himself. I forgot they made that Grimace shake. I think I had one. I think Bart did. Tanaj says, hey, Waz. Well, shout out to Waz there.
What up?
Okay. Todd Chisholm Jr., member for 14 months, says, holy purple hair, Batman. Thank you. I see the Twitch went crazy. Jill Jedden says, the hair, pretty fly for a white guy. Jesus, thank you. Is it Weary Pirates? Is it me or does John look different today? A little bit. Thank you. I got Hank Hill ass. I never see that and don't laugh. Thank you. It says the purple actually looks really good on you, man. Hell yeah. Well, thank you. I want to get a poll up, but Brooke is asleep at the wheel on Twitch. I want to put that up because I'm starting to think maybe this is what I should have had all along. Maybe. What do we all think, people? Is this peak John? Have I finally received my long-awaited glow up? Or am I baby Grimace? It's one of those two things. Anyway, I want to turn now to the rewards because we had our big old Dragonathon. And as a result of it, we had a top 10 on our leaderboard. Can we actually get the leaderboard put in there? I probably should have asked for that before. No, we can't. That sucks. Anyway, Gabby Mathis, we know, is in first place. So Gabby Mathis is gonna have first pick because some of these rewards are exclusive. There's only one of them. One of them being the limited edition Donald Trump trading card style John NFT. It's an NFT in that I printed it out and not that it's crypto because it's not. But anyway, here are the rewards. And starting first with Gabby, feel free to reach out to us and let us know with a comment which one you're interested in. So we have that NFT. I've signed it. I'm gonna put it in a frame. I can send it to you. Okay, we can get a signed Dragon Daddy t-shirt. I chose that one because it's white, so you'd actually be able to see the signature. So I'd be happy to do that. And then we have stuff where you can make your mark on the show if you're interested. So if you'd like to choose a garbage person for myself and Brett to discuss, you can do that. You choose a garbage person and we won't necessarily agree with you depending on who you choose, but we'll discuss it. If you'd like to choose a story for us to discuss as members content, a story that you think maybe we've missed or don't talk about enough or that you just think would be fun, you can do that. If you want to choose a damage report court topic for members content, we could do that too, where we discuss the merits of a thing and then vote on it. You can do that. Let's see, we have naming Trashy for 2024. Trashy's the nickname. Trashy needs a formal name though, and you can choose a name for the rest of the year if you'd like. I'm also perfectly willing to follow in the footsteps of George Santos and Rudy Giuliani and film a cameo style video on a topic of your choice. You can receive a follow from TDR on various social media platforms just by providing yours. If you'd like to choose a custom emoji, as long as it doesn't violate copyright or whatever, I'd be happy to have one of those made. And also, if you would like to have your name forevermore commemorated in one of my works of original fiction at my Patreon, patreon.com/John Iadarola, I'll make a character named after you or inspired by you, whatever you'd like. So those are the rewards. We go now to Gabby, who I think is watching. If not, we'll figure it out. We'll get to Gabby and see what she likes. Okay, sound good? If you have any questions about the rewards, feel free to reach out to us. Maybe the mods will see it as well. And with that, we await your choice, Gabby Mathis. And for now, more news. Christopher says John has morphed into Tommy Pickles from Rugrats all grown up. I'm gonna have to look that up. I'm a little bit worried that that's gonna be devastatingly accurate. In any event, let's turn now to other news. We have a big update on the Georgia Court of Appeal. So they agreed to hear the appeal of the refusal to disqualify the DA in Georgia, that's Fani Willis, from the Georgia election subversion case. You remember they had that big legal back and forth. The judge refused to get her off the case. And there was a challenge to that. And the big update is that they have now set oral arguments for that challenge, which is good news because of course the case can't proceed until this whole thing is done. So the oral argument date has been set for October 4th. I am not impressed. You see what they're doing here? They're doing it, they're moving forward. And hey, you have the oral arguments on this appeal on October 4th and maybe a decision at some point during October, and then no time before the election for us to actually adjudicate whether he tried to steal the Georgia, like the Electoral College votes of Georgia. We just won't know. At least we won't know before the election. And it is hard to see this as anything other than an intentional strategy because it fits in so well with the other legal proceedings still forthcoming for Donald Trump. Now, we know he was found guilty of 34 felonies in New York. We got that. And I hope that you enjoyed that because it's unlikely that we're gonna have much resolution on the other cases. So Georgia, probably not gonna happen until the election. Judge Eileen Cannon, as you already know, has indefinitely postponed Trump's classified documents case. He definitely stole the documents. Seems like a slam dunk case, but there's just not gonna be there's not gonna be time before the election to actually adjudicate it. And by the way, they received so many complaints through the automated system of Eileen Cannon that they shut down the system that accepted them. But anyway, you have that. And then of course you have the January 6th case, perhaps the most important one of all. And we're still waiting to hear what SCOTUS is gonna say about the absolute immunity. Maybe they'll rule this month. Maybe next month. And then probably there won't be time before the election to actually do the case. And so when they say that these judges are conflicted, when they say that there's a two-tier justice system, just bear in mind, yeah, they got him on the Stormy Daniels one, the least significant one in a lot of people's minds. But now 3 of the other cases stopped dead in their tracks, thanks to some people who were literally put on the bench by Donald Trump and others that are Republicans, just needing a little bit more time to work through all these things. Woz, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I like many people who would like to not see Donald Trump win re-election in November, was hoping that some of the bigger, more major trials, specifically the one in Georgia, could have been adjudicated. Because again, like he committed these crimes in 2020, right? Like this was 4 years ago, right? There was a hope, especially when the charges got brought, that we could get a trial, get a verdict, get a sentencing in before November in 2024. And I think GA, man, is the most disheartening of all of them because it feels like such a self-own on the Fani Willis part. This whole imbroglio with her lover and hiring this dude and maybe possibly could have hired a myriad of other qualified people to prosecute the ex-president of the freaking country. I mean, like it seemed like such a needless self-mistake, right? And so yeah, ever since it's been shown that the Trump's legal team has been, effective in basically delaying all of this stuff until either he A, gets reelected, or 2, just loses the election. Who cares? Whatever. I'll fight these people in court and I'll be able to situate it then. Like I've been disappointed ever since.
Yeah, look, I'm frustrated by the judges, but I'm also not gonna like pretend that there aren't mitigating factors. Not mitigating, that's not really the right word, but there's extra context.
Yes.
On almost none of these did they need to wait anywhere near as long as they did to start moving forward because we knew they were gonna delay. And by they, I mean both like that would be the Trump legal strategy. They're definitely gonna try to delay and probably be successful because they have billions of dollars, and that the judges are gonna throw up roadblocks. So you have to get it started as early as possible. And they didn't, unfortunately. And in this case, like if you are literally prosecuting the president of the United States,
insane.
Be a good boy or girl, whoever you are, Fani Willis did the dating or whatever, but like what if I don't know, Bragg had been like they found out that he had, like a Pinterest where he was like liking like art of Donald Trump being like spanked by Stormy Daniels. Like you can't do any bad things because it's too hard already. But anyway, very frustrating. And I know that the right is obvious. They love this. They'll never admit that this is going on because that would imply that there is actually balance, I suppose, or benefit to being Donald Trump. But it sucks for the independents, particularly. For some conservatives too, they deserve to know whether he did these things. They don't believe that he did, but they deserve to see the evidence. And now they're probably not going to, at least until after the election. And in some of these cases, never. Because if he wins, and there's a very good chance that that will happen. I hate to agree with Bill Maher or whatever, but it does seem likely that he'll win. He'll just make them disappear. Anyway, let's turn now to other cases not involving Donald Trump, although perhaps involving some hypocrisy from Donald Trump. Let's turn to this.
It's kind of interesting that Jill Biden went in during jury selection. It's kind of like a mob tactic to kind of stare down the jury. And although I'm sure she didn't mean anything like that, but the jury selection is a strange time to come into court. But I want people to understand one thing, that this isn't just an illegal gun. It's not just the use of the gun. It's a use of a gun when you're surrounded by drugs. It's perjury on a felony affirmation. And so it's not just illegal gun possession.
Oh my God, Jeanine Pirro is doing her absolute best in the haze that she's in. How am I gonna talk about this and not be obviously hypocritical with the Donald Trump stuff and how we believe that having a gun is the most sacred right that anyone in America could ever have, but it's gotta be bad for him to have it. But anyway, so she gets to that. But the first part is the best. I think we can all agree. Jill Biden showing up for her son's trial is mob-like behavior. Jill Biden, she is a school teacher and a grandma. She's staring down the trial. I heard that a juror burst into flame when she looked at him. By the way, it's an odd time for him to show up on jury selection. It was the first day. She came for the first day, okay? There was nothing odd about it. There's something odd about you. But anyway, she's not the only one trying to navigate this and get as much out of the trial as possible. And they need to be careful here because they've been saying that the system is rigged against Donald Trump. But here you literally have a Biden on trial and they have to talk about it because it's juicy and their base wants it. But they need to pretend that this is not evidence that the system is not uniquely biased against Donald Trump. Here is Sean Hannity.
Unlike the lawfare in New York, well, there are no cooked up charges or aggressive prosecutors campaigning on, we're going to get Hunter Biden. No, to the contrary, just the opposite of what you saw in New York. This trial features actual evidence, numerous credible witnesses. And if I'd argue anything, I'd probably say the deck is stacked in his favor.
Yeah, I think you would say that. Again, it's such a laughably absurd read of both situations simultaneously, but that's his job. And he's very well compensated for saying stupid stuff like that, Woz.
Yeah, I mean, the reach is so egregious when a mom supporting her son in court. Like, we're talking about like when people are accused of heinous acts like rape and murder and child molestation, like the worst things you can do in our society, their families show up for them. Like, this is just a fact. Like, most people's families don't just abandon them because they've committed a horrible crime. This guy had some coke and a gun, and his mom, it's mysterious as to why his mom might show up to court to support him is just ridiculous. And of course, just the idea that somebody should be prosecuted for gun possession and these people are in favor of it is the height of hypocrisy. Like, because we know that on any other given day, gun possession would be like, oh my God, a Second Amendment and blah, 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 blah. And the founder said we could have guns. And, so the hypocrisy here, they're bending themselves like pretzels into these takes, John.
Yeah, I don't know. How does anyone buy this as a real thing? I know that we're just, no offense to Woz, we're just, like idiots on the internet. I know that. Sure. But anyway, yeah. I literally have purple hair right now.
Wholeheartedly
totally joking about Woz. Woz does great work. We hold ourselves to such higher standards of honesty and authenticity and fairness and nuance and ballast than they will ever do. It is They just spin. It is spinning so fast, 24/7, and that's it. And they have to, again, because we have the benefit that we have not tried to chase some insane, like, self-possessed purity or something. Like, people do that online. They try to one up each other, to like refine the drug of the thing they provide and make it pure and more intense and better, and you come watch me instead. And then the thing is, you got people hooked on that. And so you can never be nuanced again. You can never be fair. You can never give an inch to the other side, because people are like, well, that's not pure anymore. That's adulterated. And so they're terrified constantly of losing their audience. But we don't have that. We can defend Eric Trump when, we feel people are being unfair to him. I can literally try to disarm one of the most salacious and compelling arguments against Lauren Boebert on a daily basis. But they have to, they're just terrified every second that they're not gonna say the right thing and they're gonna lose their audience. Hunter Biden is on trial, and it seems like he did the things that he's alleged to have done. And that's fine. And it also has absolutely nothing to do with Joe Biden. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the 2024 election. It has nothing to do with the White House, okay? So that's why we're not focusing on the actual content of it. It's just a non-political case of a guy who's not a politician. But again, for them, it has to be so much more. Now, with that said, we're gonna take a short break, but stick around. We're gonna be talking sports on the other side of this. If Don Jr. was on trial for guns and coke, which will happen at some point, does anyone think that that Donald Trump wouldn't protect him, wouldn't pardon him preemptively or something like that? Joe Biden's not gonna do that. And he shouldn't, because it seems like Hunter did the crime. I'll never understand it. But anyway, Gabby Mathis, it turns out, was watching. Gabby, always glad to have you here. And sent in a super chat. By the way, you don't have to send in a super chat to let us know this. You can just send a comment, but I do appreciate the support as always. Hardly the first show of support from you for the channel. So thank you to the end of days. It says, I would like a signed t-shirt and love to all. Okay, Gabby, is there a way that we can communicate privately that you could get your address? Maybe, would you be able to email to we need to figure out which email we would have that sent to. Maybe you get back to me and I'll let Gabby know, because we want to send you that, and that's just the beginning. We're not just sending you a signed t-shirt. Let's keep it real. That's you gave an insane number. So we want to make sure that you are well taken care of, and we will. But thank you for being here. Thank you as always for your support. Now, with that said, I want to move on to the number 2 position on the leaderboard, but I will need that. Do we not? It was in the doc yesterday. Anyway, we'll figure that out. I'm gonna read a few comments, everyone. And I have now seen a picture of that character from Rugrats. And if I shave, that is what I will look like. And you know what? I might actually, because I think that the brown beard might be undercutting the purple, actually. I might have to do that. Oh, thank you. Okay, yeah, no, I should have remembered that actually. So if the Poetic Kid is watching, and actually I know how to communicate with the Poetic Kid as well. We'll talk to the Poetic Kid about which reward he would like. And then we'll move on to number 3, Lady F&T. So we're gonna move our way through the list, make sure everyone's taken care of. Okay, let's see. Oh, I do see the list, thank you. Maybe that was there when I said that. I apologize, I don't know what's going on. For the last nearly week, my daughter has been waking up in the middle of the night screaming at the top of her lungs, and I never know if I'm awake or sleeping. Anyway, Bernie the Kiwi Dragon says in a super chat, hi John and Waz, the purple hair looks very hip, John. Oh, what do you know? Just want to say today is the 35th anniversary of the Tiananmen massacre. China is trying to make people forget by closing the square today. That seems like the sort of thing that would make people remember. Actually, if you close down the square, I would just not comment on it and not try to oppress people. But I'm not trying to cover up a massacre. But thank you for letting us know that. Okay. Gabby Mathis says in a super chat, love VFC and hugs to all who wrote to me, still have hard time to see. Totally understood. Thank you again for being here. Under his eye dragon says, did you hear the libs are giving away free slushies on the day of Trump's sentencing? Election interference. Hi, John. I don't know for sure, but I am assuming that is 7-Eleven And they're giving away free slushies, I assume. I think so. By the way, there had been a poll on Twitch, and it was worded in a way by Brooke to make people side with her. It said, "What type of jerk is John?" And it was cute purple jerk or some other negative one. And when I looked, it was 90% the cute purple jerk. So thank you, everyone. It looks like the purple is going to be permanent. Actually, it won't, because it turns out it's very expensive to color your hair. I've never done it before. I don't know how anyone maintains that. But anyway, let's see. Me being me says, loving the hair. Thank you so much. Alexander says in super chat, the hair is glorious, John. Thanks for being a good sport, but good to see Woz more than John's hair. Always good to see you. I agree. I prefer it. By the way, Kurt Von A asks what my daughter thought of my hair, and she was confused, maybe a little bit scared, but we're working on it. Hopefully she will one day recognize her papa again. Anyway, with that said, let's turn now to the expertise of Woz as we talk about this.
Look, here's the reality. Tommy's right. It's not just race, though. It's also sexuality. Caitlin Clark is a white heterosexual woman in a black lesbian league, and they resent and are jealous of all of the attention and the shoe deal that she got.
Dear God, I don't listen to a lot of commentary about sports outside of the WWE, and maybe I made a good choice, because if that is representative of it, I don't think I'm missing much. Anyway, that's Clay Travis with one of the least offensive things I've ever heard him say. Simultaneously, good God. In any event, what he's talking about right there is that Caitlin Clark is obviously, a major figure in sports, and they despise it. They want to talk about women's sports exclusively through the venue of attacking trans people. They don't want to have to actually respect their athleticism and everything. But there's a situation going on where apparently Clark and Chicago Sky guard Chennedy Carter were involved in a tense moment when Clark elbowed Carter, and then Carter shoved Clark to the floor. So they got into it. It was a little bit rough, or at least to the extent that basketball would tend to be. And so here is what Pat McAfee said, okay? Pat McAfee, who has a bit of a reputation, said this. We can't show you the video because they'll take down our channel. Said, I would like the media class that continue to say, this rookie class, this rookie class, this rookie class. Nah, just call it for what it is. There's one white bitch for the Indiana team who is a superstar. And we'll get to what other people thought, but Woz, I need your opinion. My only experience with Pat McAfee is that he is a commentator on the WWE. And this seems somewhat consistent with his buffoonish character.
Yes,
what do you make of this?
I think the Caitlin Clark story has made so many people nuts for a lot of reasons, because it blends race, it does blend sexuality, it does blend culture war. Like, this is a white woman from Iowa, let's face it. And it blends just like the new realities of the culture, where like it's hard to get a bunch of people to pay attention to any one thing. And when they do, particularly now with women's sports, I just think a lot of people don't know how to react. A couple of things. I think there has been some gatekeeping from the people who have covered the WNBA before Caitlin Clark popped up. There's just this idea like, look, there was already great storylines, there were already compelling athletes, there were already all these great things about the league and our players to celebrate. And we're kind of annoyed that all these newbies come and they're barging in and blah, blah. And I understand how they feel about that. It's kind of like, when you like that band that was just indie and then all of a sudden they signed a mainstream with a record label and like now they have millions of fans. I understand the gatekeepers in that sense. I think they're wrongheaded. I think it's nice when a lot of people can enjoy a thing, but whatever. I understand how they feel that way. I think too, the people who get uneasy about the fact that this predominantly black league now has this white player as the face of it day one, before becoming super accomplished in that league. She was very accomplished in college, probably one of the most accomplished college basketball players ever, but she's a rookie. She hasn't done anything in this league, and now she gets all the attention. She's getting a lot of money from endorsements, etc. I understand people's unease with that part of it as well. Where I differentiate from people is that, one, I think people need to give Caitlin Clark a little bit more credit for becoming this popular, for not being some hot sex pot, blah, blah, blah thing. People are attracted to how she plays the game and her personality. Like literally, these are the things that are bringing people into the game. That's very rarely been the case for a lot of things having to do with women athletes, and just like this, some of the stuff that we could go back to Serena Williams and what's a freaking name? Not Anna Kournikova. Oh my God, why am I drawing a blank on the Russian? Sharapova, sorry, Sharapova.
Yeah.
She was making a lot more money. Maria Sharapova, she was making a lot more money off of the court than Serena, who was kicking her ass on it. Way better player. And people were like, oh, it's just because she's hot. And I think that was legitimate gripes. That's not the case with Caitlin Clark. She's just getting this stuff for being a great player and having a game that attracts a lot of people. And I think folks just need to calm down. Again, we can't retrofit this thing and be like, oh, well, Teresa Weatherspoon and Cheryl Swoops and all these other great, Rebecca Lobo and Diana Taurasi and Super. We already had great players. Why aren't they getting the praise? Sorry, guys, for whatever reason, their games didn't resonate with the public the way Caitlin Clark's does. This idea that we should retroactively go back and start saying sorry to these women. That's not how life works, guys. Caitlin Clark is here now. Yes, she's getting a disproportionate amount of attention, but guess what? In the aggregate, a rising tide will lift all boats, and everybody is going to be able to benefit in the newfound attention. And we should be thankful for that.
Yeah, I agree. Look, it's almost like the perfect storm, okay? Because she's a rookie. There's the racial angle. There's the right wingers now feeling like they need to weigh in when they've literally never cared about women's sports, particularly the WNBA. Like it's like all these things hitting at the same time, and some of it's illegitimate, some of it's legitimate. You could be frustrated by a rookie getting this much attention. I think it's hardly the first time that a rookie comes into a league and a lot of people are focusing on them. It can be exciting when someone comes in, particularly when they were doing so well previously. And so there's definitely that. Yeah, I just like they don't have to talk about it. If you're not interested in the WNBA, that's fine. Plenty of people don't watch the WNBA. I don't watch the WNBA. Yeah. But I also think that there are some guys that want to be able to go back to just talking about it as a joke because they don't think that women should ever be respected as athletes. And they unfortunately feel like this is, particularly because she's white, that they need to weigh in. Now, that said, I want to get to Pat McAfee's apology. I guess it's an apology. He says, I shouldn't have used white bitch as a descriptor of Caitlin Clark. And you know you messed up when that's the first sentence of a tweet you have to send out. No matter for the context, even if we're talking about race being a reason for some of the stuff happening, I have way too much respect for her and women to put that into the universe. My intentions with saying it was complimentary, just like the entire segment. But a lot of folks are saying that it certainly wasn't at all. That's 100% on me, and for that I apologize. I've sent an apology to Caitlin as well. Everything else I said, all still facts. I called her white bitch as a compliment. I think you might have to send out another tweet, man, because I think that's a problem. But anyway, yeah, it's frustrating. Like I just wish we were better as a society. I wish that we could appreciate. Again, you don't have to watch it. I don't watch it, but you know, I love Angel City football. I watch WWE mostly for the women, who I think they have some of the most amazing female athletes in literally the world. If you're not familiar with who Jade Cargill or Bianca Belair are, you literally need to look them up because they're amazing. But anyway, some of these guys need to take the opportunity that is always open to them to just not talk about something. Yeah.
And I would say this one last thing, which I think is going to be different from what your listeners might hear out there regarding this story. Because for the NBA, which I cover specifically for my day job, the coverage was not always the most racially sensitive, culturally literate that it could be. It wasn't always the fact. Guess what? The game grew anyway, and we learned along the way to be better about our coverage of these Black athletes. We learned how to do it, but guess what? It wasn't always fantastic. What I would say to people who care about the women's game, this is growing pains, guys. You're in the big leagues now. A lot of people, you got a lot of eyeballs on what you're doing. This is part of it. We'll get over it. We'll all get collectively better, and we'll all be happier for it.
100%. Okay, let's see. Do we have time? We have 3 minutes. I think we can fit in enough time. Let's jump directly into this, and apologies in advance.
They'll put President Trump in jail. Absolutely. They didn't bring these 34 felony convictions against him just to walk away. Yeah, they want to put him in jail. They would like to put him in prison. They openly say it. So I want my colleagues here, I want Republicans to actually do something. And we should be impeaching Joe Biden because everybody that voted to send us here wants us to do something. And Wednesday, Joe Biden's going to just legalize a permanent invasion with his executive orders.
You mentioned a privileged resolution on Biden's.
Yeah, so I got him right there, right here. Privileged resolution of impeachment. I can force the vote this week. But you know what? I was going to do it tonight, but I decided I'm going to go talk to our Republican elected Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
Does she speak English? Like, yeah, I got it right here. Republicans religion, man. What are you talking about? You're a Republican. You should be able to say what you are, okay? I could give you some other words that might be simpler to say. But anyway, that is her saying that she's gonna push for impeachment again. And I know what you're thinking. For what? Insert a thing, whatever, anything, everything. Because New York might lock up Trump, Joe Biden should be impeached. That makes sense. By the way, they're almost certainly not going to lock him up. And if they wanted to so much, and she's so sure that they want to, the judge already could have locked him up for the 10 violations of the gag order. Why did the judge not do that? They assert these things about Trump derangement syndrome and how much people want to get Trump, and they never have an answer for why they don't do the things. Why did they let him win in 2016? If they want to kill him, why has he not been killed? If they want to lock him up, why has he not been locked up? Why are they allowing all of these cases to be so delayed? It doesn't make any sense. But in that, she doesn't just want Biden to be impeached for the trial. Joe Biden has now done this executive order that's going to let him lock down the border, which is exactly what they want to be done. If it's Trump doing it. They don't like Biden doing it because they don't want the situation at the border to improve or for people to think that it's improving. So now she wants to impeach him over doing what she wants Trump to do. Unfortunately for her, Mike Johnson does not appear to be on board. Take a look.
The impeachment power is one that we wield very carefully here, as I've said so many times. Next to declaration of war, it's the heaviest power that Congress has. It needs to be very methodical. Look, there's no question. President Biden, I think, is the worst president. I think President Biden's the worst president in the history of the country. And there may well be impeachable offenses. There's an investigation process that's gone about that has been looked at of our committees of jurisdiction, and the process continues. So I'm not making any commitment on that this morning. We have to let the constitutional process and our constitutional responsibility play out.
Yeah, I'm sure Mike Johnson would be perfectly happy to impeach Joe Biden for cause. If James Comer's been investigating him for 2 years. They've got nothing. Mike Johnson knows. You can hear he sounds sad because they've got nothing. But all they do have, in the absence of evidence or specific crimes that they think Joe Biden has committed, is a strategy to try to defend Donald Trump in whatever way possible. And that means that Joe Biden cannot accomplish anything, even if it's stopping what they call a literal invasion. And that's not just them freaking out that he's doing the executive order. It's when they twice now killed the Republican border bill, which they did. They don't want progress, and they're trying to manage a difficult situation where they have to stop the situation from improving for Trump to have a chance of winning. But they also have to make clear that their base doesn't see that as what they're doing. I don't understand how you could see it as anything else, Waz, but what do you make of it?
Obviously, they're not stuck between a rock and a hard place. I think their voters have gotten used to this level of hypocrisy where, things that they ask for get presented to them and they slap it down. I'm more interested, honestly, John, in the hilarity of the contrast between Marjorie Taylor Greene, the actual voice of the base, the foaming at the mouth, rabid sicko of that tape of Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Mike Johnson, the fake respectability of Republican politics, right? It's like who the Republican establishment thinks it is in Mike Johnson and who it actually is in Marjorie Taylor Greene. That kind of cracks me the hell up, honestly.
Yeah, the whole thing is utterly ridiculous. And again, just like with the bill, this executive order, progressives, when you learn about the details, you're not gonna like it at all. Like it's not for us. It's specifically tuned to appeal to right wingers. But that's with the assumption that right wingers actually care about accomplishing the things they say that they do. Those are all means to an end. The end is power for Donald Trump, and that they get the scraps from Donald Trump. They would much rather that the entire border be on fire, volcanoes popping up out of the ground, if that meant that Donald Trump would get 4 more years. And it couldn't be clearer in situations like this. In any event, that's all the time we have. We'll talk more about the executive order and the fallout later this week, I'm sure. For now, though, thank you everyone who's been watching. There's more to come in the aftermath, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome to the Aftermath, one and all. John Iadarola here, Woz as well. And by the way, Woz, James Myers says in a super chat, Woz could definitely pull off purple hair too. Just saying. Have you ever colored your hair?
I have not. I've never even attempted, but I'm sure I could get in touch with some Dennis Rodman type vibes if I needed to.
Yeah, I could see that working. In any event, let's see. We got 3 stories we're gonna get to. Love them. This first one is just, it's as soon as the first video starts, you're gonna know it's one of my favorite genres of news. But anyway, the Poetic says, I was led to believe there might be a super secret alternative game related prize. Is that still on the table? Yes, literally on the table. Literally on the table. But anyway, yes. I know the Poetic is one that I can directly communicate with. I'll communicate with you via Patreon and we'll talk. Stickman Grit says, no, John, you see, it's unusual for family members to show up and support the defendant before the media spends a week asking why Melania isn't there. Yeah, they're family and they love each other and she's probably worried about her child. That's why she's there. She is not a soprano. She's just there for Hunter. Anyway, with that said, let's move into our first story, starting with this.
What's your relationship with God like and how do you pray? That's Sharon from Alabama.
Okay, so I think it's good.
I think it's good. Yeah, religious people would think it's good, I guess, and they would have a lot more to say about how deeply personal it is. They wouldn't talk about it like a show that they watched the pilot of, but it didn't stick with them. Like, yeah, no, Breaking Bad's good or whatever. I'm gonna get around to Breaking Bad later. That guy doesn't care at all about any of this, but there's more.
I do very well with the evangelicals. I love the evangelicals. And I have more people saying they pray for me. I can't even believe it. And they are so committed and they're so believing. They say, sir, you're gonna be okay. I pray for you every night. I mean, everybody, almost, I can't say everybody, but almost everybody that sees me, they say it. It's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that definitely, not everybody that comes up to him says, sir, I pray for you, because a lot of them are really big, strong men with tears in their eyes coming up to him. So it's half like gigantic titans of men with tears streaking down their big manly beards, breaking down in front of him. And then it's a bunch of evangelicals. So that's ridiculous. And it's a lie, and we all know it's a lie. But I also want to be clear, like if you're a religious person, and if you're a conservative religious person, the question to him was, talk to me about what religion means to you and about how you pray. And he says, well, it's good. Let me tell you, the evangelicals love me. They pray all the time and they totally believe. Does that sound like a person for whom this is an important aspect of their life? I've talked to strong religious people, okay? And not everybody wants to be super out about their religion, but he's never been, he's never kept the stuff he cares about close to the vest or whatever. He talks about it openly. And he doesn't. And I have a theory as to why he doesn't like talking about religion in a personal vein. I've expounded on it multiple times, but Woz, I want to go to you. What do you make of this? Are you buying it?
How could I buy this? It's a couple of things. Like you mentioned, John, not everybody wants to broadcast how strong their faith is with whatever their God is. Cool. However, the people who do, they will not hesitate. They will not equivocate. They will not stammer. They will let you know how strong their relationship is with the Lord. And then those other people who might be a little bit more discreet about their faith in Jesus and God and all this other stuff. If you ask them about it, oh, the Lord is my rock. The Lord is my shepherd. Oh, anything good that's ever happened in my life is because of the Lord. The Lord got me this Mercedes. The Lord got me this great apartment. The Lord put me in this job. The Lord gave me my wife. The Lord, bruh, that's how these people talk. All of them. So the idea that somebody would ask Donald Trump about his relationship with God and he's just like, it's pretty good. That doesn't cut mustard with reality. That's not how faith-based people talk about their relationship with their Lord and Savior.
Yeah, look. Speaking of people who don't talk often about their prayer, look, I have not often talked about my relationship with religion But look, I'm willing to say that like growing up, I went to Roman Catholic churches and I went to Lutheran churches on two sides of the family. And honestly, I never really bought it. The family members that I went with didn't really buy it. And it wasn't really important to me. But when I was a teen and I lost my father, that's when it became important. And I started to pray. And I never felt comfortable going to an established church. I never felt like I wanted to be a part of that thing. For me, it was more personal. And so what I do is I go directly to the source, the Bible, and I choose different Bible tracts and I think about it. And I think about how it applies to my life. And I think about how I can live up to the standards of the figures detailed in the Bible. And that's my relationship. And it has been for multiple decades. And that's how you lie about it. I think that was pretty convincing. Not a single word of that was true. But if you lie about it, Trump, how can you not make up that you pray or whatever? None of that's true. I'm an atheist, but so is he. And honestly, look, I apologize if that seemed disrespectful to religious people. It was meant to describe Trump more than anything. But like, he is so much more disrespectful because we've now gone through what, 10 iterations of him being asked these questions over the course of a decade, and him having no answer on day one back in 2015 or whatever, as a 65-year-old man is bad enough. But he still a decade later hasn't come up with a lie. He won't go to one church to do a photo op other than the upside down thing after he gassed a bunch of peaceful protesters. He doesn't have any respect for religious people. And the fact that it doesn't bother you seems so weird to me. But really fast, I wanna go to one more of the SOTs, okay? We have other news, but let's get to this.
When you look at all of this bad stuff going on, they have nothing to look up to. They have no God, they have no anything. They kill people, they beat people, they push people into subways. There's just nothing there. Religion is such a great thing. It keeps you, there's something to be good about. You want to be good. It's so important, and I don't know if it's explained right. I don't know if I'm explaining it right now, but when you have something like that, you want to be good. You want to go to heaven, okay? You want to go to heaven. If you don't have heaven, you almost say, what's the reason? Why do I have to be good? Let's not be good. What difference does it make, right?
Yeah, I think the Bible actually has something to say about rich men getting into heaven and their odds and everything. Religion, it's you want to be good and you want to get into heaven. It's like if you asked a toddler what Christianity was about, and that's the best he's got as a nearly 80-year-old man who's been trying to appeal to evangelicals for years and years. He can't even fake it because he doesn't care at all about these people or their beliefs. Was.
And like you said, by the way, John, there is a not even genius way to talk about these things and be cynical, right? Because the truth is that religiosity has deeply fallen in our society. And there is a vacuum there that has been left. Like people aren't part of churches, therefore aren't part of these vast, big communities. And so, if you're Donald Trump and you want to be cynical, you say, yo, they're filling that void with porn. They're filling that void with video games. They're filling that void with, the worship of the idols on their TVs and the internet. Like, there's a way to talk about this and sound like you give a damn of have spent more than 3 seconds thinking about this stuff and pandering to these people. But Trump can't even be bothered with that.
I know, and honestly, again, I'm being critical of him. I shouldn't be. He has the vote. 81% of white evangelicals back Trump. Despite the porn star hush money payments,
but John, we gotta give them credit for this. He got them their abortion ban. Shoot, man, he may not be religious. He has delivered for them.
He delivered for that. Here's what he could deliver. I think. Can we bring up this image two again? We've showed this before. This is Donald Trump praying, okay? And it's less honest than my depiction of my prayer a minute ago. It's AI. It's not real.
Oh my!
He could go to a church for a photo op, but he won't. They put out the images of him at cookouts, surrounded by all of the Black MAGA supporters. They're AI generated. he could actually have a cookout with Black MAGA people, but he won't. Why won't he just do these things?
Oh my goodness.
And anyway, again, but still, the fawning images, the Donald Trump with Jesus. Yeah, Jesus would be sitting next to him in trial for his affair, where he basically non-consensually raw dogged a porn star. Jesus was big on that. It's just so ridiculous. Have some self-respect, religious conservatives. Anyway, it's okay. They called me guilty too. Yeah, similar situations. Okay, I am making producer Mike very angry, so I'm gonna move on to the next story, okay? We're gonna fit in both regardless. You don't think I can do it, but I think I can. Let's talk about this. It's no secret to anyone at this point that Tesla has been having some hard times. Their stock had like a big dip, and a big part of it was that they didn't really like make good on some of the claims that they had or the expected growth in terms of auto sales. Now that's a problem for the company, but now we have a problem for Elon Musk, obviously the head of Tesla, because there's a lawsuit that is accusing him of effectively insider trading with the secret information that he has about the status of Tesla. So there's a lawsuit was filed with a Delaware court late last week. A shareholder, Michael Perry, accused the CEO of deliberately unloading nearly 45 million shares in advance of poor vehicle sales data to prevent an estimated 55% hit in value. The sort of drop that happened to the stock after the data became public. So he also alleges that the entire board collectively violated their responsibility of directors towards shareholders. So that's a separate thing that might be a little bit more complex to adjudicate than if this was insider trading. So basically, Elon Musk disposed of $7.5 billion in Tesla stock in November and December of 2022 while he was in possession of adverse material non-public information, okay? And he's asking for that money, which now I guess is worth about $3 billion with how the stock has changed, to be returned to the company via disgorgement, and is seeking damages from the 8 directors of the board for their reckless disregard. Basically, there was an earnings call, and on that earnings call, Elon Musk said that Tesla had excellent demand for the fourth quarter at that point, and they expected to sell every car that we make as far forward into the future as we can see. It will be a record-breaking Q4. And that is not at all what happened. By January 3rd, so the next quarter, Tesla shares had slumped to a 2-year low. And what he's alleging is that Elon Musk, as the head of Tesla, he had that data. He lied on the earnings call to keep the stock price up because a bad earnings call can lead to an immediate dip. He did that. Then he dumped a bunch of shares so he could get as much money as possible. And I will never understand this, Watson. This is where I want to bring you in. The dude has hundreds of billions of dollars. What does he care if he loses 1.5 billion? You're gonna risk breaking the law it's just an allegation. But if it's true, the timeline looks damning. You can look into the data and the timeline here. It just seems so needless. But what do you think?
I think it's vanity and image based. He's gotten so used to having his like sycophantic, jockstrap sniffing fans, especially online, that any news that could be perceived as like not great for the company, he feels like will damage his rep with his worshipers. And that's the only thing that makes sense here, because like for the amount of money that we're talking, a 300 billion for 1.4, like it doesn't make any sense unless you understand that this guy is constantly in an image making endeavor for himself. And that's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Yeah, it has to be the image, because if he was so sensitive to losing money that he's willing to break the law to potentially not lose money, why would he still own Twitter? He's lost billions upon billions of dollars. He's set to lose billions more. But again, I think it's because of his cult, because of his image. He wants to maintain this idea that he's some sort of genius, and it could end up with him facing some major fines. We'll see, we'll be tracking it. He's wealthy, he's got a lot of lawyers, he'll probably end up being fine. But it certainly looks like there could be something in this case. Okay, let's move forward to our final story of the hour. Producer Mike, I'm gonna get to it, okay? Anyway, we have yet another story of corruption in our government. This case, though, it involves both sides of the aisle. More than 300 House lawmakers were apparently reimbursed at least $5.2 million for food and lodging while in official business in Washington last year. There is this new taxpayer-funded program that basically allows them to write off certain sorts of expenses, but importantly, does not require any documentation or receipts. It's an honor program. It's like it's on the honor code or program for people who've shown that they have literally none. They're biologically capable of acting honorably. So here's the rules. Lawmakers cannot be repaid for principal or interest on their mortgages. Does that need to be written? They can only get reimbursement for days they're actually working or flying to DC. Bear in mind what qualifies as working for members of Congress is pretty loose anyway. And they can't ask for more back than their actual expenses. And we will return to that. That's the critical thing there. They're also subject to daily spending caps determined by the GSA. Members are strongly encouraged, but not required to keep records of their expenses. Okay, so they can only do it on days where they're actually working. And they can't request more than they paid, but they don't have to provide any resources of when the money was spent or how much it cost. Seems like there's some loopholes there. No, it's not even fair to describe it as a loophole, because a loophole implies a loop that has a hole in it. This is just hole. And I think it's 300 holes of various types in both the Democratic and Republican parties. Here's a couple examples. Matt Gaetz, the biggest spender, shockingly, was reimbursed nearly $30,000 for lodging and more than $10,000 for food in just 2023. He spent $30,000. He was reimbursed more than $4,000 for lodging in 2 different months, more than $3,000 in 5 different months. What sort of fancy pants place is this dude staying at, and what food is he eating, Woz?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm somebody who on a monthly basis, I wouldn't say I have a robust expense report, but it is what it is. However, I have to provide detailed, itemized receipts for every single expenditure, and they have to be work related. I have to prove that something work related was accomplished by the expenditure. You can't just say, oh, I took an Uber to Sherman Oaks. And I say like, yeah, it costs $150, and meanwhile, I basically took an Uber pool and it cost me $12. Like, you can't just do that, right? Like, you have to provide documentation. That's the most egregious part of it to me. The lack of accountability here, like that they could just make up whatever number they've spent. And you know what? For the meals, I will say, if Matt Gaetz has even half a heart, maybe he's taking his staff out to nice meals, to talk shop and get things done for the American taxpayer.
Yeah, doubt it. I think he's cruising Chuck E. Cheese, if anything. But because of the pizza's great. The games are fun. And those costumes, mwah. It's not the company or anything. But anyway, look, if they're doing receipts, which they definitely can, they literally have staff to do the receipts and to log all of that, then maybe. But bear in mind, we're paying for this. They're already very well compensated for their work. They raise tons of money. It just seems crazy that this is another way where they just spend, they don't have to log it. It is good to be in power. Okay, with that said, that's unfortunately all the time we have for the show. Thank you, Woz. Always a pleasure to have you here, especially on the day with the Caitlin Clark story where I'd be, totally out of my element, but thank you.
Thank you for having me, guys. Always a pleasure.
Great to have you here. Thank you everyone for watching. Tomorrow, Big News Wednesday, Sharon Reed is gonna be here. Sorry, I'm reading some of the chat. Anyway, lots to look forward to. For now though, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.